And now for an amazing true story from the book of Nehemiah, chapter 2.
Nehemiah was a Jewish man whose family was from Judah, but he had never been there. Instead, he held a high position far away in a royal Persian court, testing the king's food and drink and giving him advice. But recently, Nehemiah had learned some troubling news about the Jews living in Jerusalem, God's city. The city wall had broken down, and it was leaving them exposed to enemies from every side.
That's terrible. Well, somebody's got to do something.
Nehemiah poured out his heart to God, asking for help. But God made it clear. Nehemiah was the one to return to Jerusalem to help the Jews living there.
Me? But I'm just one person.
Nehemiah knew he needed help, so he prepared to go before the most powerful person in the land.
Dear God, please give me success today when I bring my request to King Artaxerxes.
Usually Nehemiah brought the king's drink with a big smile and a word of encouragement. But today, Nehemiah allowed his true feelings to show about Jerusalem as he handed the king his golden goblet.
Now this is excellent. Why are you looking so sad, Nehemiah? You aren't sick? You must be feeling very sad.
Nehemiah was afraid, but he spoke the truth anyway.
King Artaxerxes, may you live forever, but why shouldn't I look sad? The city where my people live has been destroyed. Fire has burned its gates. Well then, what do you want?
Nehemiah took a quick moment to silently ask God for help, and then he plunged ahead.
Are you pleased with me, King Artaxerxes? If it pleases you, let me go to the city of Jerusalem where my people are from. I want to rebuild it.
The king stared at Nehemiah for a moment, and then he turned to the queen who was sitting next to him, and they exchanged a long glance.
No, what if I've gone too far? What will he do to me?
Finally, the king turned back to Nehemiah.
How long will your journey take, and when will you get back?
Nehemiah felt a great weight lift from his chest. The king wasn't angry. He seemed pleased. So this gave Nehemiah new boldness to ask for more.
My people are in trouble, so I must go soon. And if it pleases you, will you give me letters to the men who govern the lands I'll travel through, so I'll be safe?
The king nodded. So Nehemiah added quickly,
May I also have a letter to Asaph, who takes care of the royal park? I want him to give me the logs for the city gates and the walls, and for the house I'll live in. Of course. Consider it done. Call my scribe at once.
At last, Nehemiah smiled. God had moved the king to give Nehemiah everything he needed. In fact, the king even assigned horsemen to travel with Nehemiah, who found himself approaching Jerusalem at the end of a very long journey. Oh no. Though Nehemiah could only see a small section of the wall, it was worse than he had feared. Huge holes gaped. Jagged piles of stone lay scattered everywhere. As Nehemiah reined in his horse, several priests and officials came out to discover what was going on. Who are you?
And all these horsemen. I'm Nehemiah. I'm a Jew, just like you. King Artaxerxes sent me.
The men gave Nehemiah a place to sleep, but he didn't tell them yet what God wanted them to do.
I have to see the whole city for myself first.
Late at night, Nehemiah chose a few people he trusted, and they followed Nehemiah as he rode his donkey all along the crumbling city wall.
Shh.
The group snuck out through the valley gate.
We'll check out the Jackal Well and the Dung Gate first.
Bright moonlight shone down on the craggy walls.
You can hardly even call these walls. More like big gaps.
Whole sections of the wall had toppled to the ground or fallen into the city, crushing homes. What was left of the city gates had been scorched by fire.
Uh-oh. We can't even get through here. We'll go up the Kidron Valley.
Finally, Nehemiah turned back and slipped in through the valley gate once more. He had seen the worst, but he knew that God would help him. And the next morning, Nehemiah gathered the priests and the nobles and the officials.
Listen to me, please. You can see the trouble we're in here. Jerusalem has been destroyed. Fire has burned the gates.
Yeah, we kind of already know that.
Doesn't this guy have anything new to tell us?
Nehemiah took a deep breath.
Yes, I do. I want you to join with me. Let's rebuild the wall of Jerusalem. Then people won't be ashamed anymore.
But no one's been able to do that all these years.
But God is with us. He sent me. He even moved King Artaxerxes to help. I've got permission for us to cut down trees for timber. We've got everything we need to build up the gates and walls. Well then, what are we waiting for? Yeah, let's start. Let's start rebuilding.
Nehemiah grinned as the leaders gathered and began to make plans. It was only the beginning of a huge task, but God would give them the strength to follow through.